What's up, everybody? Alfred Flores, CEO, President of New Age Electric. Today we're going to jump back into Article 110, Requirements for Electrical Installation. And this is in regards of equipment provisions. And this is when you're determining which column should you be using determine your terminations, and you're going to be sizing your wire based on the insulation and the ampacity and whatnot. There is, and this is, and I'm going to say this article itself is overlooked because that it's in the requirements for electrical installation, and you can clearly read this and just blow it completely off. And there's a lot of good information in the requirements for electrical installations in Article 110. So we are going to jump into this. Okay, so Article 110, requirements for electrical installation. Now you're going to notice the section itself is 110.13, 110.14, electrical connections. Now, read this in thorough. Gives you your basic minimum requirements for electrical connections. What we're going to talk about is equipment provisions. Now, right off the bat, equipment provisions. Keyword, equipment. Pause it, take a minute. What do you think equipment means? If you don't know what equipment means, this is where the book has specific definitions for you to reference if you do not know all that entails with this word. Because off first hand, you might think, oh yeah, well, a motor, or maybe a panel, or something with a motor in it. That's a piece of equipment, right? Well, if we go to the definitions, Article 100 definitions, and we're going to go to E. There might be some technical difficulties here. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so we're going to find equipment. Find the definition of equipment. Here we go. So the definition of equipment, a general term. So it does not mean an actual piece of equipment. It's a general term, including fittings, devices, appliances, luminaires, apparatus, machinery, and the like used as a part of or in connection with an electrical installation. So this is telling you that equipment provision is almost anything that is part of the electrical installation. Keep that in mind. If you don't know what something means and you're taking not only a guess but an educated guess, and you're going to say this is that's only motors or things with a piece of equipment only, which that does not mean that. It means this right here. It's just a general term. They're using equipment as a general term, so not like the definition of equipment in real life outside of code. In this code itself, this is what equipment means. So we're going to jump back to 110. Okay, so equipment provisions. The determination of termination provisions of equipment shall be used on 110.14 C1A or C1B, unless the equipment is listed and marked otherwise. Conductor ampacities used in determining equipment terminations. Provision shall be based on table 310.B16 as appropriately modified by 310B15B7. So keep in mind that you're utilizing the general requirements for electrical installation, but you have to go back to the table, which we talked about in our previous discussion, the ampacity tables. So we're going to continue with this. It gets deep. Termination provisions of equipment for circuits rated 100 amps or less or marked 14 all wire gauge through 1 all wire gauge conductors shall be used only for one of the following. Only one of the following. And basically they're listing, and I'll zoom this in a little bit, see if I can, there you go. 1, conductors rated 60 degrees, so that's the 60 degree column. Conductors with higher temperature ratings, provided the ampacity of such conductors is determined based on the 60 degree ampacity of the conductor size used. Conductor with higher temperature if the equipment is listed and identified for use in with such conductors. Here's the biggie. Here's motors. So they're talking about motors itself. For motors marked with design letters B, C, D, conductor have an installation rating of 75 degrees or higher shall be permitted to be used, provided the ampacity of such conductors does not exceed the 75 degree ampacity. So it's telling you about column 75 degrees, particularly for motors with the letters designating B, C, or D. I'll be jumping in that in a few weeks in motors. There's a lot of interesting stuff in motors. And so that's A, and here's B. Termination provisions of equipment for circuits rated over 100 amps or marked for conductors larger than number 1 shall be used only for one of the following. Conductors rated at 75 degrees. Conductors with higher temperature ratings provided ampacity of such conductors does not exceed 75 degrees ampacity of the conductor size used, or up to their ampacity if the equipment is listed and identified for use with such conductors. Now, this right here, the termination provisions of for circuits rated over 100 amps, more than likely that would be your feeders for panels and large pieces of equipment such as, you know, maybe cooling towers or RTUs, something along the line that's fairly big, and maybe, you know, sub feeders for panels. So they want you to use that 75 degree column when you're sizing your wire and terminations. Now, one of the viewers had pointed this out, that, you know, we were always taught to use, you know, 75 degree you know, for termination because the lugs say 75 degrees, which I recall that was correct, and but I remembered something along the lines of, I think those were feeders only because of the fact that I was always told that. And it goes back to the point where, yes, we were taught the right way, but why is that the right way? Where did that come from? How can I just that answer if somebody says, why do I have to use the 75 degree column? Well, you come in here and you point it out, Article 110 requirements for electrical installation. It's not a problem, but I always tell everybody, you know, ask questions why. Don't just take the answer and just run with it. Try to go into detail. Find out what these things, what these codes come from and why. And, you know, it's, you know, there's a lot of time and effort that was put into this for the safety, you know, of people and people in the buildings and whatnot. So yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe. Any questions or comments, drop them below. More to come. We'll see you again. Thank you for watching.